Hello, everyone. I am one of your hosts for the Ethical Brand Podcast, Andrea.
I'm Valentina, your other host.
Today, we dive into the unique world of marketing art and why the rules of traditional marketing don't always apply. We explored how to connect deeply with audiences, not just as consumers, but as supporters and participants in something meaningful.
All right, Valentina. So let's talk about how marketing art is different from marketing other products or services.
One of my favorite topics. I love this topic because I resonate so much with artists and how it can be a struggle to market themselves. So I'm really happy to be talking about this topic and helping all
Right.
the artists and cultural projects out there.
Because artists become artists because they want to create art, not because they want to be marketing specialists.
Yes, yes. The way I suggest artists to see it is it's about valuing what you have to offer. So marketing, most of the time, it's about showing the value. But to show the value, you first have to believe it yourself, right? That the product that you're offering has value. Because most of the time, artists are a bit shy in claiming the value of what they have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where this all starts. First of all, knowing that what you have to offer has a lot of value and giving the right energy and the right importance into marketing your art because it deserves to connect with other people and it deserves to find their supporters.
Okay, so then let's talk about how it is different from marketing a product or a service.
Yeah. Marketing art is very different because most of the time when we think about marketing a product, we are thinking about what the actual need these products solve for the people. So let's say we have to market, I don't know, a toothbrush. There's a specific need that the potential clients have, and this product has the potential to solve that need in a different way than a different product. And so we can talk about the features this product has or how is it better from their competitors. When we're talking about art, we don't have all of that, right? So it's very hard to know how to market it because I don't know how to explain that this product or service or let's call it a piece of art or it can be anything. It can be cultural projects. It can be many things, but let's call it art in general, right? So it's very hard to make the connection between what problem or what need this art solves. And it's sometimes harder to find out, okay, where do I start? How do I market my product? So what I suggest people doing or what I think is the right way to market art is to see it differently, of course. And also another difference that we have is that we cannot pinpoint specific features of the things we're trying to market, right? So with products, you can, for example, if I have to market a computer now, I can talk about the specific operating system that it has or how much time the battery lasts. But in art, we have all those missing parts, let's say, if you try to approach it with a traditional marketing approach.
With art, it's a lot more nuanced. It's not just like
Exactly.
this specific thing. This you can't like point at everything.
Exactly. Okay, so with artists, what we need to think about is what is the actual reason why we buy art? And in art, it becomes very philosophical, this concept. It can, like we said, go back to specific points. So we need to stay in a more philosophical point of view. And why do people buy art? I think we buy art because it makes us happy. It makes us feel things. So maybe not necessarily just happy, but it moves you inside in some way. You feel more connected to other humans that maybe feel or are able to put into words or images or stories, feelings that you have felt. And so it's very meaningful, right? So if you think about that, then you can understand better that the way to market art is to talk about those things. So talk about the concepts behind the pieces of art that we do, the story of the person who does that art, the values of the person who does that art, what motivates them to do it. It has to go a lot more deeper than the piece itself and a lot more deeper than the brand or the personal brand as an artist that you have. Because most of the time, art is very hard to separate from the person that you are. So it becomes very personal. It becomes very important to share who you are as a person and how you see the world and what's important to you. And then when you're able to put all of that into your marketing and into your communication, then people can resonate with it. And then people can get closer to your art and want to buy it because it's a way to support you into the exploration of the things you are exploring, right? Into the processes that you are going through with your art.
You have to connect more to the person that's doing the creating than, let's say, if I was selling something that wasn't made from my own hands and it was like, let's say it's like a worksheet or a workbook. If I'm solving a problem for someone with a workbook, then I don't need to sell who I am. I just sell the solution to the problem. So then, yeah, with art, you have to really connect to the person who's creating the thing.
Yes, I think, okay, what the most traditional way to do marketing doesn't consider the person who is behind the product. Most of the time it's a company, so it has like a persona that is manufactured to have a vibe.
So
This
like the
brand
company has
you know,
the personality, not like the person in charge.
exactly. So it's easier to confine and put a very clear definition of the brand personality. From a strategy point of view, I can define, okay, the brand has this personality, this is how it communicates, this is the values that it has to offer. And so every piece of marketing that I do to market that brand, it's very coherent with something that we have created. In ethical marketing, we always try to make sure that brand personality we create, it's very aligned to the person behind that brand. The founder, the team, usually the founder, when they have a more conscious approach, puts a lot of consideration in the people that brings the company, right? So in conscious branding, when we create the personality, it's very aligned to the people who are behind it. And when we are talking about personal brand, it has to be almost the same exact thing. Of course, you can, some things, you don't have to put all your personal life into it. You can have private things, right?
And
To,
for
like,
artists
share.
as well.
Exactly. So with personal brand, which is the closest type of branding that exists as a format, as a structure, as a concept, it's the closest that we have for artists. Then there you really have to be aligned to the person you are, right? So why I said it's harder or easier, the thing is maybe it's harder to define and put it on paper and have it very specific. But then when you behave and you act and you go into the world and you create content or you make decisions that affect your branding or your product or your business, then it's always going to be aligned because one has been created to perfectly align to your values. So it might be harder to define, but at the end of the day, it's harder to sustain, and people relate more because it's true and it's always consistent. So yes, for artists, it's very important to understand that art cannot be detached from the artist. And so there has to be an effort to show who you are as a person in your marketing. I know sometimes people are a bit resistant to that.
And I think it's important to be clear that although you want your potential customers or supporters to see who you are, it doesn't mean that you're just laying your entire life out in front of people.
Exactly.
Like, you get to have your privacy, you get to pick and choose.
Parts you don't want to show, yes.
But you need to find that balance of you do need to show something.
And also there's way to do it. Nowadays that everything is about social media and creating content, we can go straight to, oh, I need to like show my life and put myself in front of the camera. And that is not necessarily the way. There's many ways to do it. It can be through writing. It can be through many different formats and you can find the one that you feel more comfortable with. But I think talking about your personal and internal world, the way you see the world, the way you think about stuff, your opinions, your understanding of many different topics or things you go through life, I think all of that is very important to share when you are trying to sell art.
So, in traditional marketing, competitor analysis and differentiation strategy are both super important. Can you explain how you would approach those when your client is an artist?
Great question, because as we talked about creating needs and to the fact that it doesn't solve such a specific need, also there's differences in these other very important things in marketing. So, for example, with the competitor analysis, what we do in traditional marketing is research all the brands and products and services that have the potential to solve the same need with a different offering. So, for example, with the competitor analysis, are two artists in the same field really competitors? When you have to buy a phone, it's either this phone or that phone. But with art, most people are interested in many artists and might buy from different artists at the same time. And because each art is unique in their own way, how do we compare them? This is what becomes a bit hard if we're trying to apply traditional marketing to art. So what you have to do in this case, yes, you still have to do research about who similar artists are, what other artists your target audience is interested in, but we see it less as competitors and more as collaborators, or maybe as potential inspiration, or maybe as people who can tell us more about
What's happening in the industry?
exactly. Because another thing we do in traditional marketing when we're talking about competitors is the question you asked. What we looked at the competitors and then we tried to find a differentiation strategy so that we are different from our competitors. But in art, that's already happening by itself.
Because at the end of the day, you're connecting to the artist and everyone is an individual. Everyone's different.
Exactly. And also, you can't force an artist into being in a specific way so that it finds a differentiation. It is true that the artists that succeed the most, it's because they have something that is very special about them and people recognize it and people want more of it. But that is a very natural thing that has to come out from the artist. It's very hard to force it. So when you do competitor analysis and then you want to do a differentiation strategy, you don't do it in that way where it's, okay, now we're going to make you fit in this place. We're not trying to make you fit into a specific space. What we do is try to find your unique points that you already have by nature because you are unique and try to show that to the world better.
Right.
So competitor analysis, we do it to understand what's there. And instead of do it so that we can create something different, we do it maybe to know what is already different by nature and try to bring that to the surface.
Yeah.
So it does work in a similar way, but different at the same time.
So you and I have talked about this before, that when you're doing this kind of marketing, people are not just buyers, they can also be supporters, right? So can you tell us more about what that means and why it matters?
Yes, of course. Like we said before, the most important thing that connects the artist to the buyer, in this case, is how they resonate with the person, with the artist's philosophy, with the artist's point of view, with the artist's emotions and feelings, maybe with their story because it's similar to theirs. So there's a lot more connection between the artist and the people who consume their art. A very good example of this that you can think of is with musicians and singers and like people in the music industry, people who consume songs, concerts, and festivals and stuff like that. Most people have an artist that they love. They really fully love this artist. So for them, if you can relate, if you have a favorite artist, a favorite musician, you know that it's almost like whatever they do, you want to be there. You want to listen to their songs. If they come to your city, you see them because it's like you want to support them. You want to be connected to them. You want to have that moment with them, right? Which is very different to buying whatever product that you're using, right? So if the singer or the artist would tell you that they need your support in something, you would be willing to do that because you don't want them to stop doing art because you connect with that so much. So of course the artist comes and says, I need a break for my peace of mind. And most of the time you're like, yes, please go and take the break because you love them. So that's the relationship you create with your consumers, let's call them, but they're fans basically, through art. And so that's why I say that more than consumer, they are supporters because it's a whole different relationship. And that different relationship that you have with them and they have with you allows you to create different ways to also have money exchange, right? So a lot of artists have Patreon accounts or they ask for support by selling merch and people are willing to support them because of the relationship they have created with their fans.
Okay. Like, for example, you wouldn't join a like subscription based off of your microwave, right? I bought a microwave and I'm now a fan of this microwave and now I'm gonna pick what? Because again, there isn't that thread of connecting to a person. Just bought a microwave from a company. So you're not going to join a Patreon list for this microwave unless it's like a startup. They've changed the game in the microwave industry. And of course, but even that, if you think about air fryers, they're new to the market in the last few years. I have no idea who invented air fryers. Like they changed the game, but I still don't know that person's name. So it's not the same as when you connect with an artist.
I would say that in your example, something that came up in my head while you were explaining that is what we're talking about artists. It's very similar to how we do marketing for conscious brands. That's why in the studio we do marketing for conscious brands, artists, and NGOs because they work in very similar ways where we are trying to create a more deep connection with the people we're trying to sell to. There's more storytelling because storytelling helps you connect, have a deeper connection, like soul to soul, basically. In all of these cases, we have brands who are trying to bring an impact to the people they're serving. And yeah, they work in a similar way because the relationship that they create are deeper and longer and more connected. So that's why when you say, unless the brand has done something incredible, I might want to support them. So that's why it's all connected.
Okay, so then does this slower, more intentional kind of marketing require more patience from the artist or like a cultural institution you're working with?
100%. Yes. It requires more patience in all aspects, from becoming more patient with the process of understanding your unique identity and your unique values that you have to offer. It requires more patience because deep connection with people and stronger relationships with them takes more time. That is something that takes more time to build. It takes more patience in general, also because if you try to become very transparent and vulnerable, there might be moments where you get rejected because, like we said, you're not confining your identity to a very specific point, but you're becoming more exposed a bit with your thoughts and your values. And that might make people angry sometimes or not agree with you. And that also needs patience to deal with that, right? And knowing that not everybody is going to agree with your point of view of the world, but the people who do, they're going to love you. And that's fine. That's perfect.
You don't want to be liked by everyone because at the end of the day, you don't like everybody. So it's okay that some people don't like you because then the people you do resonate with, especially if you are being authentic, then they connect with you. So then what would you say to a young artist or cultural project or institution that's struggling to reach an audience? Where should they begin?
Where to start? That's the first question, right? Start from simple steps. Start by finding a way to get in front of the people that might be interested in what you have to offer. Find a way that it's simple, that it's easy for you, that doesn't require too much of an investment. And in my opinion, the best ways in that case is always through people, through collaboration, through finding people who align with your values, your identity, your philosophy, and who wants to support you because they connect with what you have to offer, and start there, like going people to people. And then little by little, you find better ways to get yourself in front of the right people. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if you've been listening to us in this episode, we've talked about sharing your values, your philosophy, your personality more. Find a way to express that resonates with you. If it's writing, blogs, if it's through your same art, because sometimes art can be very explicit on that story that we said that it's important. Sometimes it's not. What I mean is, a lot of time art is when it's conceptual or is visual, not necessarily explicit on what's your point of view on your philosophy on how you do art. I'm thinking about paintings that are abstract paintings. I'm thinking about music that doesn't have words. Fashion sometimes can be very artistic, and you might not know where those art pieces are coming from, what's been the process of the artist to get to that piece. It's true, there is a huge debate in the art world where should art be or not be explained? Should it be explain itself, or be left to the understanding of whatever everybody wants to feel, or like the way each person wants to connect with the art, instead of the artist telling what that art piece represents? And I agree that if you want to leave that open, you can leave that open for each piece of art, and just let the piece of art connect to the person in whatever way that happens. But tell your story. Tell what motivates you to do art. Talk about your processes, how you create, what's important to you. I respect people who do not want to explain each piece of art that they make, but I suggest that they at least show more about what's behind. Not each piece, but like them as artists. What I want to say is that you can use different methods and different actions to talk about that. You can have a website where you explain it. You can have people interviewing you. You can make an art show and present yourself to the people. There's many different ways to do it. It doesn't have to be necessarily social media and creating content and recording yourself. But it's good to get out there and get in front of people somehow and talk about what makes you unique.
Talk to people, connect to people.
Exactly.
Always the most important.
But yeah, a lot of time people are very shy, and it's hard to do that. So my suggestion is find the way that is comfortable for you. There's more extroverted people who might feel very comfortable at a show and talking to everyone that stands in front of their art. Other people who don't feel comfortable with that at all, but might feel more comfortable on a podcast talking one-to-one with another artist.
Or creating a Substack even.
Exactly.
I know artists that are on Substack and they share their process there. They share their art there. You can have supporters.
You can have a newsletter where you write your thoughts, and you know that the people who follow you are people who are really interested in what you have to offer, and they probably can be more kind than maybe exposing yourself to a bigger audience.
Right.
Just know that there is a way where you can do that and still feel comfortable and still feel yourself.
All right. So start small with a small budget. Do what you can. Connect to people, whether that's in an introverted or extroverted way, and then go from there.
Yeah. Thank you for putting that into more actionable steps.
Okay. Thank you, Valentina. This has been a great episode. I've learned a lot.
I really hope that this episode was helpful for artists and people who have cultural projects. If you need us to touch on more specific points, we would love to help you through this podcast.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And thank you, Valentina.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Ethical Brand Podcast. If something we said sparked a thought or shifted your perspective, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on all socials at The Ethical Brand Studio, or head to theethicalbrandstudio.com to learn more about how we support conscious brands, artists, and nonprofits. And if you're enjoying the podcast, one of the best ways to support us is by sharing with a friend or leaving a review on your favorite platform. It helps more people find us and keep these conversations going. Until next time.